Keith Landis and Dennis Crabtree and the entire guys back at the office. Thanks, guys. So, as you can see from the video, we really like to get out and get our hands dirty and burn our arms. And we like to really record a lot of the material that we put in the game as much as possible. It's really what makes the game special, we think. And so I'm just going to relate a couple of incidents that occurred, not all good, out in the field while we were grabbing sounds. We'll start with a bread and butter one. We drove a bulldozer over a car. That was pretty fun. Actually, if you're a doctor, I think you have to go to school for 7 years, and you still don't get to drive a bulldozer over a car, unless you pay extra, I guess. Another time, we use a lot of pig sounds for monsters. They're really, really great for doing that. And I found this awesome pig rescue farm up in Solvang, and they have about 150 pigs up there. And so we were grabbing a bunch of pig sounds and sorry. And so the pig lady, sorry pig lady, I can't remember your name. She was awesome. She goes, "You want to record this pig that plays the guitar?" I said, "Yeah, I want to record that." So she brings a guitar out, and she sets it on the ground, puts her foot on, and the pig walks right over. That's how pigs walk. And he just starts strumming the guitar. So I got that, but I haven't found a place to put it in the game yet. So maybe some of you who are going to the other D3 panels today could talk Jay Wilson into maybe creating a secret guitar-playing pig level or something. Help me out. I want to use that. You know, the arm on fire, other things that have caught on fire in a microphone, that kind of ended the day. The last thing I'm going to tell you about, really it's more like therapy than relating a story for me. It scarred me, for good. I was recording a llama chewing, and I had the microphone right up in his face, and he was making this really awesome chewing sounds. And it was golden. I knew it. I knew we were going to be able to use it for something. And suddenly, out of nowhere, without warning or provocation, this llama hawked up the biggest, greenest, giant llama Satan loogie all over me and my mic and my face and my hands. It was disgusting. I was in shock. Has anybody ever seen the first Jurassic Park movie where the little kids get sneezed on by the big dinosaur? Yeah, well, that happened to me.
Have you used it in the game?
Yeah, that's in the game. I'm not saying where. So, I hate llamas. Part of the reason I'm telling you all this is because that kind of stuff, even when things go wrong, is really what makes the game super special, and it plays a huge role in everything we do, and I think you're really going to hear all that extra work that we've done over the years to put all that kind of stuff in the game. So now I'm gonna turn it over to the panelists, and we're gonna just ask them all questions and find out a little bit about what everybody does, and hopefully you guys can learn a bit more about the sound in Diablo. So let's see. I told everyone I'd surprise them. Who should I pick? Let's pick the pretty one on the end. So this is Andrea. She's our awesome voice director. She kicks a serious amount of buttocks. And so, Andrea, you work on all of our games, and how does the voice in Diablo differ from the work that you have to do in say, WoW and StarCraft?
Is this on? Thank you for asking, Joseph. That's a great question. First of all, I'd much rather be on the other side of the mic. This is very uncomfortable for me. There's a reason I direct and don't act is because a microphone intimidates me, so be kind. Before I answer that question, I want to give a huge thank you to all of you, because I know that all of us tremendously love and enjoy what we do. And I know that we're all pretty geeked out to be here. So for me personally, voiceover is epic and fantastic, and I can't believe I have this job and I get to do it. So to think that those of you here are here to find out about what we do is really exciting. So I know there's other cool things going on. So I just want to give a huge thank you to each of you for being here, because I'm ridiculously geeked out to be here right now. I love talking about voiceover, so I'm going to warn you, you're going to have to pull this microphone out of my hand because I can talk about it for hours. So D3, the VO, as I think I alluded to,
reuse it, make it something different than what it was originally.
On a technical level, I've noticed that you're using a combination of a SND file, OGG, and a couple other formats within the game. How do these different formats relate to each other within the game environment in terms of playback?
I believe this man has violated his terms of use.
Yeah, are we allowed to answer that question? Well, basically, we use OGG files because we actually like the way they sound on music better than any other type of compression. They are more expensive in the decompression phase, so we don't use that for everything because it's just too hard on the engine. So we just basically use that for the music, and I think the ambience as well. It just sounds better. We like the sound better on music. Everything else, the sound effects are typically 80 PCM, so.
There are elements of the music in the gameplay music where we have a layering system where there might be several tracks of music, and then there'll be related musical elements that come in according to random rules structured. So quite often, if you were to find some music in the Mopac, you may not be hearing the whole thing because some of the music is intended to be heard with overlays on top. So we do have a layering system in place for the music.
So I was going to ask, in the previous two games, especially the first Diablo, a lot of the soundtrack included a lot of, I'd say, ambient sounds like moaning, groaning, sighing. There's that great squishy sound when you'd kill Hidden. Were you able to include some things like that in this game, or?
Well, actually, there is a ton of that kind of stuff. We went out of our way, and we're not actually done doing it, so there's some in the beta, but there will be more in the first act when we ship. We created a lot of spots all over the game. You'll find this everywhere, where you could go stand for 20 minutes and not hear anything, and then maybe the next time you stand there, you'll hear a bunch of creature noises off in the distance. And we've got that kind of randomization all over the game so that maybe by the time you play the game through the third time, which somebody might do that.
Yeah, there's lots of goodies hidden in, I know for sure, in the music tracks that, did I hear that? And there's no way for you when you're playing to actually rewind the soundtrack. So you're going to have to keep playing for another couple days before you can ever verify that what you really heard wasn't a hallucination.
Was that a jaw harp I heard?
Was that a machine gun? No.
Hi, my name is Rob. I'm an aspiring sound designer for video games. This question is for Russell and Chris. You guys were talking about implementation of sound effects in the video game. I just got finished making a Flash game with a 4-person team, and I had to do a lot of my sound work over and over again by their request, by the artist's request, because my sound effects did not match the length of the little animatic of when an enemy died or when they shot something. I was wondering what the relationship is between a sound designer and an artist, because you talked about making like different 5 to 10 variations of a certain sound effect as far as length. Like, did artists ever tell you to go back and do something again because something didn't match as far as length or intensity?
No, usually that would be QA who comes out and says that it's off sync or something like that. We do work very closely with the artists at times. And basically, we just kind of, just mess around and get things going. So, you want to fill in for that?
Well, I think Blizzard has a culture of iteration, so it's no different for the sound department. So I think when you're working in this field, you need to be ready to tweak and tweak again, and then again, sometimes QA is what catches it, because after the sound and everything is left our desk, if you will, the artist might go back and tweak something. And I think another dimension to what you might be talking about too is, I think a lot of really effective sound design happens when the mass, the weight feels right. It's really easy when you're recording source material, especially in a quiet studio, to actually have it either not sound big enough or maybe sound too thumpy or something that just the human brain's pretty powerful computer, and it can tell you subconsciously that it isn't quite hooking up. There's something often wrong with that sense of weight or mass, and so that's always really tricky. And there is an analogy to that in the visual arts. You talk to special effects people, and they say, they make fake rocks for the movies because real rocks look fake and fake rocks look real on films. Well, it's often the same kind of thing that happens with sound.
One last thing I'd like to say is to keep it more granular and more individual sounds. And if it's a flash game or something like that, you'll probably have individual timings of when these things fire off. Instead of doing a full soundtrack, that's how things kind of get out of sync a lot of the time. So the more granular it is, or if you know if something is going to loop, keep it looping until needs to be turned off. And usually that's all handled in the data side. So try and keep it as minute as possible, as granular as possible. And that helps a lot in the end, because then they can just move those timings around too, and it doesn't become your job to do that all the time as well.
Cool. Get a few more in here.
Hi, I'm also a sound engineer. I have a compression limiting question. I've always found in the Blizzard games, you guys run like 3 tracks, and they're all gorgeously compressed. And I've always wondered how you deal with final limiting and get it where you can blend all these tracks, yet I can still hear every whisper in every track, and then there's a loud track, and the limiting never peaks or is clipped. It's always gorgeous. So any advice about compression and limiting, I would love.
I just want to say that is a master compliment, and we appreciate that with all our hearts. Thank you. I'll let the guys speak to the compression and limiting, but I know one thing that I do in mixing the music is I work at very low volumes when I'm mixing, because at a low playback level, if you can hear the bass and the treble and the mid-range and the melody and it's all there, even at a level that you can easily speak over, and have a conversation over, chances are it'll sound good when you turn it up to, face melting levels, which eventually we do, but there's all that, I think that reference listening level is really important to be consistent. As far as compression, maybe, I don't know, anything else anyone want to add?
Well, I should say, in the form of the game, it's good to leave plenty of headroom back at runtime. So you don't necessarily have to compress everything a lot. I like to compress things when I want to make it really aggressive and big and in your face. And when we go into the game and implement this stuff, nothing is at 0 dB. Not a lot of it's at 0 dB. We leave a lot of headroom in there so you have high dynamics and things can really jump out at you. So that's what I try and go for.
The audio world is weird. 0 is loudest.
Awesome, thank you.